What is going on, governors? Chisgule here, and today we're going to craft Scolas Lucky Coin, the Season 3 KvK reward, one of the only legendary accessories in Rise of Kingdoms. 50 million gold, 30 million dead troops, hundreds of millions across my alliance and kingdom. Whatever. No big deal. Just push the button. Hello and welcome back. We're crafting Scolas Lucky Coin. This thing is so outrageously expensive. 60 legendary stone, 60 legendary bone. This was the Season 3 KvK reward. Whoo boy, we're going to craft it and then we're going to run some tests to determine whether or not it actually makes that much of a difference. So you're going to want to stick around to see that if you're into Rise of Kingdoms videos where we help you figure out whether or not it's worth spending your money and hard-earned resources. You should like and subscribe. We make daily videos to help you get the most bang for your buck, and we are a sponsored creator in Rise of Kingdoms. In order to craft this lucky coin, you may have noticed, we've got a lot of materials we still need to combine. If that's boring for you, you just fast forward a couple minutes and we'll get right to the crafting. But let's do some combining here. We've got 5,138 base level stone, along with some other stuff here. I'm just going to combine all, and this is probably not overkill. Let's find out. Let's combine these 10, 10, and wow, max out the rest. All right, so there's 25 stone. Now we got to go work on the bone. This is nuts. Whew, cracking open all these legendary chests is a little nerve-wracking, but we've done that now. We're converting all of that to stone. We have selected the right thing. Boom. All right, the stone is all lined up. 60 legendary stone. It feels really weird to be using all these material choice chests that I've been saving for like 3 months. All right, these are the last material choice chests we need to open up. We've been doing them incrementally so that we don't accidentally click the wrong thing. That would be the literal worst. Here we go, 112 of the level 3 chests. This should be the last stone that we, or bone rather, that we need. Now we go in, we'll combine these, and we should be looking pretty good here. Whoo boy. Okay, there it is. Oh my goodness. There it is. Scolas Lucky Coin. We're ready to craft it. No big deal. Just 50 million gold as the price of entry here. Now, you know that with legendaries, you can't reforge these and then make them again because you lose half the materials. So when you craft this thing, you go all in. If we get the special talent, we've got some interesting choices to make. We put a lot of thought into this. If you had a lot of really solid infantry commanders, that's a pretty good choice, especially because guan really benefits from shields. You really want the infantry boost. With that said, we don't have that many infantry commanders. We have a couple. They're good. Alex, Charles, Richard. All right. We're also on our way well out of an infantry-related meta. Those commanders are kind of cycling out, or at least, you know, our Leo and guan, they're no longer on the way in. Archers are. Speaking of which, we could go archers, but we've really just got like Esong, Sid, and Edward. And like maybe archers are the future meta, but we are not really into that at this exact moment in time. They might be good, but we got other people who can go focus on that in our alliance. Leadership's not a thing for me. I don't have Wu Zetian. I'm certainly not going to make this coin for Ethelfled. If you can believe it, I think if we get the special talent, which would be amazing, we're going to go in on calves. I think we're going to go in on calves, but let's just crack this thing open and see if we actually get it. Holy jeez, this is so nerve-wracking. Here we go. We're going to push the button. We want the special talent. This is the big jam. Oh, and PS. Just one other thing before I push this button, okay? Some people are like, oh, yes, what I do is you go in and you, like, craft a bunch of junky stuff before you craft this, right? and you hope to get a couple things that, you know, aren't special talent, and then you try and get lucky that your next one is special talent. That's not how independent events work. Every time you flip a coin that has heads or tails on it, it still has heads or tails on it. It's the same chance every time you flip the coin. So whatever the chance is of this being special talent, it's the same if I do it now than if I make a bunch of junky stuff first. It doesn't change the way that this works. They're independent events. Okay, we're going to push the button. 50 million gold. 30 million dead troops. Hundreds of millions across my alliance and kingdom. Whatever. No big deal. Just push the button. Here we go. Scolas' Lucky Coin. No special talent. All right. But we got a coin. And this is our first legendary that we've crafted. Okay, let's get to testing. For these tests, we wanted to use a real army, for which I might put the coin as a piece of equipment onto them, and we wanted to see if the coin had an effect that was observable beyond just the randomness of their own skills and talents. So I'm using Attila Takeda with my real gear. In the first set of fights, I'm going to have the coin. In the second set of fights, I'm not going to have the coin. And Negan is using something very, very steady with no randomness whatsoever, which is going to be Mehmed II, and no secondary commander at all. The intention of this is not to demonstrate whether or not, this would win, right? We don't want to see if Attila Takeda wins. We just want to see if we can observe an effect with the coin and without the coin. So in this first round of testing, and I'll show the reports on the screen in a second, we ran it a bunch of times. We had an average of 162,671 troops remaining for the Attila Takeda army that had the coin. So we'll show those reports in just a second. You'll see exactly what that looks like. Then we're going to run the exact same thing. Same gear on the commanders, blah, blah, blah. But in the second round, we're going to have no coin equipped. And we're going to see which one performs better. And we actually, spoiler alert, were able to observe an effect. There was one potential flaw with this test that I realized as I watched this footage, which is that in the first round of testing, each of us had a 5% attack token. And in the second round of testing with no coin, each of us had a 10% attack token. So we have the exact same token, but that might be influencing the outcome here, to be fully transparent. But I don't think that's the difference because we both have it. So here we're watching this fight unfold. This is the one where now there's no coin equipped. And with no coin, we saw an average of 156,889 troops remaining in the Attila Takeda army. That is fewer troops. In other words, the effect of the coin was definitely observable, and the difference was 5,781 troops. Now, of course, your response to this is like, okay, Chisgule, you're battling against sort of like a not real army here. What if you were to throw a real army into the mix? So glad that you asked. We're about to show the reports on the screen. You'll see what those look like. But in the battling that is going to happen next, what we're going to show is a Guan and Alex that has the coin. And we're going to battle against Attila Takeda that has no coin. So it's going to be a real fight. And the reason we chose Guan and Alex is that Guan, in his expertise skill, gets 15% extra skill damage every time the coin pops. So theoretically, and it's not every time the coin pops, it's every time he gets a shield. So theoretically, that Guan-Alex battle should be far more compelling when we see the coin in action versus not in action in a real fight. Because let me tell you, the randomness of real fights is really high, especially with Guan. Over the course of the 5 or 6 battles that we did here, and I found this fairly astonishing, we had, in the first battle, Attila Takeda win and have troops remaining. And in subsequent battles, Attila Takeda lost every single one, and Guan won by as much as 75,000 troops, which is insane. That's a spread of 80,000 troops. 80,000 troop difference in fights just because of randomness. So to better understand the effect of the coin, I actually went in and took a look at the details of the battle report. And as soon as we show you the overview of those reports, we're going to take a look into the report in which Guan performed the very best to see whether or not the coin actually had an effect. And honestly, looking at this was extremely surprising. There's a lot we can take away from this report, which we'll show in a moment. First, though, let's get a peek at sort of the summary here of what took place. In this report, we had 6,300 remaining, then 41,000 remaining for the guan in this case. So we went from losing to winning here. 50,000 where guan is winning again. 73,600 where guan won. I mean, like, huge variability in this. So let me pull up the battle report and try to unpack how much the coin fires off and how much we think that's actually influencing the active skill damage of the commander, because we can see how often that even lined up correctly. Okay, let's get a look into this report, and I'll give you the summary first. The average of the battles that we did with Attila Takeda and Guan Alex with the coin was 42,000 troops remaining. But this report was the most remarkable, with 73,500 troops remaining. It was by far the most impressive showing from our Guan and Alex. So I want to just look in the battle log and see how often did the coin even fire off. Over the course of the battle, the coin fired off 5 times. That's right, a total of 5 times. That's a shielding factor of 2,500 over the course of the battle. And that should be triggering the expertise skill on Guan Yu, giving him 15% extra skill damage for 3 seconds, which is a very powerful effect because he does a lot of skill damage. With that said, the very first time we saw the coin proc is here on turn 7. Turn 7 is where the coin procced, and this is almost like the perfect situation because on turn 8, we see Saint of War is the active skill of Guan Yu. This is the ideal situation. Coin proc, Saint of War, Savage. That's like we get the shield, we should get the effect of the expertise skill, and we cast the active skill. This is the dream. This should be the dream, but what I see missing is the 15% buff indicating that they got a shield at all, which got me wondering, is the coin actually triggering the shield effect in the battle log? And I could find no proof that that was actually happening. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, my friends. As we started to investigate this battle log, we can see here, thank goodness we ran this with an Alexander the Great, there's a second of lull after Guan's active skill, and here is where Alexander the Great casts his shield. Now, if you didn't know, Alexander the Great has 2 shielding effects that he does. One on himself for 1,200 shield factor, and one on the nearby weakest ally for 600 shield factor. Now, he will target himself if there is no nearby ally, and if you didn't know, that shield effect will apply to himself but will not stack with his other shield. So what that means is that he's not getting a shield effect of 1,800, the combination of those two. If he's the only march nearby, you're just straight up losing value if there's not a second march nearby with Alexander the Great, because it indicates over here the troops only receive the strongest shield effect. I assume that this also would be true if somehow you had a shield proc from Guan at the same, or a shield proc from Alex at the same time that you had a lucky coin proc go off. But the thing that we're not seeing here, that we should have already seen, and we will see as a result of Alex doing a shield, is that Guan Yu, here he gains the shield effect in the next turn. By the way, this I found really fascinating. So Guan Yu, after Alexander the Great casts a shield, gains the effect in the next turn, and because he gains the effect in the next turn, he only gains the 15% expertise skill extra damage in the turn after that, which is kind of interesting. And the reason that that is so interesting is that if you're using Guan and Alex as a pair, especially in a game mode like Sunset Canyon, and you've got someone like Joan of Arc nearby generating a lot of rage, you have a lot of opportunity for the Shield of Alexander the Great as a secondary to guan to actually enable the expertise skill on guan to time and line up really nicely with the active skill of guan. Here's how that would work. Guan is going to use his active skill. There's a second of delay. Alexander the Great is going to use his active skill. Then the shield is going to apply to the march. Then for the next 3 seconds, there's going to be the 15% bonus active skill damage available. That's a 7-second cycle, which means you could be in the realm of casting the active skill on guan again. So if you use the skill tree and you're generating enough rage, you actually can enjoy the benefit of the expertise skill from guan in Canyon without doing anything too special, just using your Alexander the Great as the secondary, which I thought was pretty interesting. But with all of that said, this video is about the coin, even though we learned a whole heck of a lot every time we really dive deep into the battle log here and the mechanics of this game. There were only 2 situations at best, and I say at best because we don't actually see the coin shield showing up in the log in the same way that we see the Alexander the Great shield showing up in the log here, where we see, shield effect caused by Alexander the Great. Now I'm actually pointing to it. Guan Yu gained a shield effect, and there's the damage absorption. We don't see that in the log for the coin. But I do think the coin is working. I think it's just not showing up in the log and enabling us to see what's happening. So does the coin trigger guan and the expertise skill? I don't actually know if it does. From the log, it does not seem to be doing that. And I'm going to assume the shield from the coin is applying, but we don't see the shield in the log the same way that we see the shield from Alexander the Great, which is certainly concerning at best. Concerning at best. If we scroll back up here, the Lucky Coin effect, there it is, right? And where is the shield from the Lucky Coin? Nowhere to be found. So if we take a big step back and say, okay, is this Lucky Coin worth crafting? Is this item for which you need to win kingdom versus kingdom and then obtain thousands of dollars worth of materials if you are spending money, worth crafting? This is a very interesting question. 2,500 shielding factor over the course of a fight. What I will say is if you want to have the strongest possible march in the game, you absolutely must have the Lucky Coin. It's a must pick up. You absolutely must have it to have the strongest march in the game. And based on the testing that we did with Mehmed, and it's very basic testing, I am inclined to believe that the coin has an observable effect, and it is significant over the course of a fight. 5 shields in that Guan Alex fight is pretty solid. If we just look at commanders here, and we talk about, like, what is a shield factor of 2,500, let's just take a peek at Constantine, right? Like, Constantine gives you a healing factor of 15,000, which is a pretty big healing factor. And it's a big burst when you get below 50%, right? This is 2,500 healing factor over the course of the fight. That's not so bad. But it's also not huge. So I do think that the coin is some amazing incremental value. And I feel like I've got to run some more testing before I can say slam dunk, yeah, Chisgule, it was worth it to lose 30 million power to win the KvK and however much power the whole kingdom lost and all that stuff. And then all of the freaking materials on top of that to go craft. But what is certainly true is that while there is no other good stuff to put in that slot, you just can't get any better right now than this Lucky Coin. And we've reached out to our contacts to get a better understanding of the mechanics of the battle log and make sure we're reading that correctly. We'll see what we hear back about that interaction with Guan and if that's how it's supposed to work. But I was pretty surprised to see that variability so high. And don't you worry, we're going to run some more tests, get more data for you. Like and subscribe if that's what you're into and you want to see when we have that information. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.